Welcome to Concordia, my mostly scratch-built layout, loosely set in 1940s New England, and based on the model railroading classic by Lynn Westcott, H.O. Railroad That Grows, except I'm building it in N scale. After completing the build of the chapel, it was time to put some scenery down on this barren landscape. I figured a good place to start with landscaping was with the hardscape, so I installed a stone wall. I watched a lot of YouTube videos looking for ideas on how best to build a stone wall. Didn't see anything I thought was appropriate for my N-scale layout. And then I saw one video that showed using cork. It just so happened I had a piece of cork laying around. I cut out a piece that was scaled to the correct size for N-scale, painted it up, and put it in the ground. Now, if you walk through the woods of New England, you'll come across hundreds, if not thousands, of stone walls in the woods and elsewhere throughout the countryside. It might seem like an odd spot for stone walls to be laid, but these actually used to be fields that were plowed by farmers. And every spring, when they would go out and plow their fields, they would have to dig up more stone and they would just stack it to the side. They actually thought the devil was planting these stones in their fields because every year when they went out, there was always more stones to dig up. Of course, it was just the frost heave lifting the stones out of the ground. But that's why there's so many stone walls in New England. So I thought it was an appropriate addition to the landscape here. When it came time to do the groundwork, I didn't blaze any new paths. I just followed what others had done before me. In fact, this beginning here, basically how Luke Towan at Boulder Creek Railroad does his ground. Paints the ground a dark color so that if you miss any spots, you're seeing what looks like earth underneath. And then what I did was I also used his technique of using actual dirt from the ground and mixing it with grout, tile grout. And then I laid down glue, sprinkled the dirt over the top. And then once that dried and hardened, I went back over it, painted some more glue on top of it, and then I laid grass on it. Now I used my own homemade sawdust mix, and I think it came out pretty good. And then after that, I planted a tree that I had made. I just tested out making a tree from a dead plant in my backyard, and I think it came out pretty good. It looks like a deciduous tree, a young one. And then I laid some broken stone, and I think that this was rather unique. I couldn't find anything that seemed appropriate for stone here. I was going to use the ballast that I laid the track with because that was like the right color of what I was looking for, except it was just too fine. And so I was looking around to see what I could use instead, and I came across perlite, which is a garden additive. And it seemed like the appropriate size. I sifted it to get to the right size stones, painted them up a little bit, gave them a wash, and then glued them to the ground. Underneath the tree, of course, I put down some leaf litter. It's actual ground up leaves. And then I put the stonework down. And I think it came out pretty good. Then it was time to make some poplar trees. As I have mentioned, I wanted them to serve as a windbreak for the parishioners in the church from the trains. And I made these out of pipe cleaners. And I think they came out pretty good. But I thought it needed something more. And so I bought some plastic fencing. It's actually fencing that you would see in between train tracks in a yard, but I thought it looked appropriate enough to surround the side of the chapel. And then I added some headstones in there for a little graveyard. And in the end, I think it all came out really good. I think it's a nice little vignette, a nice little scene, and I'm quite happy with it. It was a fun little project, my first attempt at doing scenery, and I'm very happy with it. Okay, thanks for watching.